Good morning, partners. I have some excellent news. My trip to Africa has been a distinct success, and I have a business idea that involves investing in the future of small businesses in Africa through microfinance, a profitable and sustainable way to alleviate poverty as a socially responsible organization. Let me explain. Why microfinance? This is not a new concept for Citi. Citi Microfinance was launched in 2005 to focus on commercial relationships with microfinance institutions and microfinance investors. But as Bob Annibal, the global director of Citi Microfinance, said, if Mohammed Yunus is the banker of the poor, then we are the banker to the banker of the poor. Now, I think it's time we looked at the bigger picture and involved directly in the poor countries ourselves. But why Africa? As you all know, Citi has been in Africa since the 1950s, and we have established banking presence in 15 countries in Africa and conduct business in an additional 23 countries. And yet, over 380 million Africans lack access to banks. That is a staggering 40% of the continent's population. These are the number of companies in need of financial services, ranging from large companies to micro businesses, and this is the amount of finance available. Clearly, the needs of the large companies are met. The needs of the medium-sized businesses are also sufficiently met through local banks and subsidized international finance. At the other end, the demand for microfinance has not been met, but this is the traditional area of focus for microfinance institutions, and it is a rapidly closing gap. An alarming portion of the deficit is in catering to the needs of the small businesses. This segment of microfinance is informally known as mesofinance. Mesofinance caters to companies with financial needs above the microfinance level and below the commercial and subsidized international finance levels. Here lies the opportunity for not just profits, but for poverty alleviation as well. Let me tell you more about an organization called MYC4. MYC4 is a Danish organization which uses a reverse auction model to enable people from all over the world to lend money to entrepreneurs in Africa. It works this way. An African entrepreneur wants to apply for a loan in order to set up a small business or grow his existing small business. He goes to a local MYC4 provider to present his project, how much money he needs, and how much he can pay in interest. The MYC4 partner evaluates the business prospects. If the loan is approved by the MYC4 partner, it is uploaded to the MYC4 marketplace. Investors can now read about the entrepreneur and see his application for funding. Out of the many people who will read this particular project, some of them will want to invest in it. There is an auction on MYC4 where the interested investor can bid with the amount they wish to invest and at what interest rate. The investors who offer the lowest interest rates are successful in the auction, and the auction closes with MYC4 collecting the money. The money is then transferred to the provider and the entrepreneur receives his loan. The entrepreneur uses the money to grow his business, and as the business grows, he starts paying back his loan with interest. Now, the interest to be paid is determined by the weighted average interest rate charged by the investors plus the percentage charged by the provider and administrator plus the percentage payable to MYC4. The monthly installment is collected by the provider, who then takes his share before giving it to MYC4, which takes its share, and finally the bulk of the amount is transferred to the account. But MYC4's current model faces three major problems. Firstly, some providers are unreliable. MYC4, in the eagerness to expand quickly, has failed to screen and select providers with care. Hence, there have been cases of fraud as well as cases of providers not doing the due diligence checks diligently. The next problem is the transaction cost. When we make one loan of $50,000, there is some paperwork to be done. When we make 100 loans of $500 each, there is literally 100 times the paperwork to be done. And because the administrative work needed to process a loan is not proportional to the loan quantum. The third and probably the biggest problem is the risk of rising default in MYC4. There are two main causes of this. The first is the recent financial crisis. The microfinance industry was hit by the crisis but has since recovered. In fact, MFIs have emerged from the crisis in a better shape than commercial banks, so the prospects for microfinance are definitely positive. But another internal and more fundamental cause of the rising defaults is the lack of expertise of small businesses. Providers examine the business to see if it will be profitable and sustainable. However, they fail to analyze if the person requesting for the loan is capable of running the business. This is important because 88.7% of all business failures are due to management mistakes. So if a viable business is run by an inexperienced entrepreneur without the right knowledge and expertise, it will probably fail, leading to losses and defaults. But despite all of this, why do I still think that investing in MYC4 is a great idea? Well, I have a solution which combines the problems being faced with MYC4 and leverages on the advantages that they offer. I propose a strategic alliance between Citi, MYC4, and one MYC4 provider, Micro Africa. So what is this strategic alliance for? Mesofinance. As we have already seen, this is a gap in most developing countries. It is an enormous need and hence a tremendous opportunity. And mesofinance solves some of the problems that MYC4 faces right now. Firstly, mesofinance provides bigger loans to fewer people. This means that the overall transaction costs are lower and hence profits are higher. Also, mesofinance targets small businesses which have already proven to be feasible, at least on a small scale. This means that the entrepreneur has already overcome the basic hurdles of setting up and sustaining small business, which means that he or she is capable entrepreneur and not just a poor farmer with big dreams. Who will be involved in this strategic alliance? Firstly, we have Citi, ourselves. Our large presence in Africa will be a great asset. We have been on the continent for over 50 years. We understand Africa. Our strong physical presence means that our initial investment and transaction costs will be lower than other investors who are abroad. Citi is also a well-established bank with a decade of experience and business expertise. This can be used to solve another of MYC4's problems if we share our expertise with our clients. We also have the experience with microfinance. Most importantly, Citi Microfinance has been through the financial crisis and emerged stronger. This is definitely a huge advantage. Secondly, we have MYC4. Despite the drawbacks and problems, MYC4 brings many strengths to this deal. Transparent communication enables investors to be at ease about their investments and also eliminate the problems due to misunderstandings. Many MFIs are not considered sustainable because of the over-reliance on government and private grants. MYC4's model targets private investors and hence is much more sustainable. The IT platform of MYC4 is also a great advantage because it enables quick and easy communication between all related parties despite geographical restrictions. This is a great asset given Africa's fast-growing internet facilities and access. Thirdly, we have Micro Africa Group, which is one of the most reliable providers to have worked with MYC4. They have an established presence in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Sudan, and Rwanda. They have been in this business since 2008 and have survived the whiplash of the financial crisis and emerged fairly unscathed with a low default rate of 0.03%. The credit rating of Micro Africa is 4.5 stars out of 5, according to MYC4's complex calculations, which takes into account multiple factors affecting credit risk. Hence, MYC4 is a very safe provider to work with. So we have talked about what we should do and who should do it, but why should we be involved in the first place? Two reasons. Firstly, profits. The interest rates charged are higher for mesofinance when compared to standard loans. Hence, this is a very good and very profitable venture. Secondly, poverty alleviation. SMEs are increasingly being recognized for their key role they play in poverty alleviation. Helping small businesses to grow, expand, and hire more people is a better and more sustainable solution to poverty as compared to aid, and Citi can now be part of this. The question of where is a very crucial one. This one aspect could make the difference between the success and failure of this project, because micro and meso finance require certain external conditions to be in place in order to be successful. Having considered issues such as the economic growth, political stability, prevalence of AIDS, life expectancy, internet connectivity, prevalence of natural disasters such as droughts, etc., I have decided on Kenya and Uganda as starting points for this project. Citi as well as Micro Africa have a very well established presence in both these countries, and hence the initial setup costs will be very low. The next question is when? We shall look at the implementation plan for this project. I propose that we start with $200,000 in the first year, $500,000 in the second year, and reach an investment of $1 million in 3 years' time by the end of 2014. So how will we do this? The process will be as follows. An African small businessman who has a plan of expanding his already profitable business further but does not have the capital to invest in this expansion. He approaches the local MYC4 provider, Micro Africa, presents his plan, explains how much money he needs and how much interest he can afford to pay. The Micro Africa does a complete and thorough analysis of the proposed plan and the existing business while keeping in mind the capabilities of the entrepreneur seeking the loan. However, the provider has to meet additional criteria in order to qualify for the loan from Citi. Firstly, the existing business must at least break even. This is to reduce the risk of default due to businesses being unsustainable in the first place. To begin with, I think we should also restrict ourselves to providing loans for the acquisition of capital equipment only. Hence, at least 50% of the loan amount should be used for the purpose of purchasing capital equipment. This is because the equipment purchased can be used as collateral. Also, we should stay clear of agriculture and related sector because of the frequent and prevalent natural disasters in the continent. So, in order to qualify for the loan, it has to be profit-making, non-agricultural business which seeks to expand through the investment in capital equipment. Once the provider approves the loan based on the criteria set by Citi, we will provide the funding to the entrepreneur through the provider. The provider is responsible for keeping the MYC4 web platform updated for our reference. Citi will monitor the loan and keep an eye on key performance indicators. At critical points, Citi will provide financial advice to the entrepreneur to help him or her make wise business decisions. This could help to prevent management blunders, and this could be done through the online platform. The collection of monthly payments will follow the existing MYC4 process, and the provider will collect the money, take his share, send the rest of the money to MYC4, which will take its share before we, the investors, get the bulk of the payment. If the entrepreneur were to default on his loan, the capital equipment that was purchased using the loaned money will be seized to recover our losses at least partially, and this will be our exit strategy. Half a century ago, Citi was the first overseas bank to open branches in African countries. We identified Africa as an opportunity while most others viewed it as a liability. Because of our foresight then, we are now reaping the benefits of a stable and strong presence in one of the fastest growing regions. Microfinance has opened a new door for Citi. Let us seize the moment now. Thank you.